everybody, I want to talk about fursuit pricing today and some drama that relates to it. But before I do, I just want to say that I hope you're all enjoying your holidays here in 2024, and going into 2025, I hope that you're looking forward to the new year. Now, first off, I want to say that this is not like a current drama or a drama that is ongoing, or even something that I think should be drama. This is more referring to an overarching sentiment from some people in the fandom. I've seen posts about this on Reddit, I've seen it on Twitter, and I've even seen people talking about it in Discord, and so I figured that it was worth talking about because I really do think that people understanding how fursuit pricing works is really important in the fandom, because fursuits are one of the big pillars of this community. Now, the first thing that I need to get out of the way is that fursuit prices are rising, not just from big makers, but even from small makers. And I think that some people are thinking that it's because for some reason makers are trying to make fursuits unaffordable. I've seen people actually comment that on posts, and that's simply just not true. The reality is that right now, more than ever, a lot of fursuit makers, especially those who have higher prices, are based out of the United States and out of Europe, in a lot of places where the cost of living is increasing, due to a large mixture of economic factors. But this is not an economics video, it's a fursuit pricing video. But what you need to understand is that the cost of living is going up, and so is the cost to manufacture goods and sell them, which means if you want to actually purchase a fursuit, the maker is not just charging you for making the suit itself, which is labor. They're charging you to purchase the materials, usually at retail prices, because most fursuit makers are not getting bulk discounts. Some do, but even then, most of the time when you're ordering fur in bulk for fursuit making, it's not nearly going to be in the same volume as, let's say, a company that's manufacturing furs for clothing that's being mass produced. So the rates are still going to be a lot higher. Some faux furs from quality places, and trust me, for a fursuit, you are not going to be using the cheap stuff. It can cost as much as $28 to $30 per yard. And you'll need anywhere from 3 to 7 yards of fur to make a fursuit. That's assuming that it's just one or two colors. You will usually need more if your fursuit design has multiple colors. And so as a result of that, the fur price alone is going to be a few $100s. And then there are a bunch of other materials that you need to make a fursuit, from buckram. You need glues. You need to maintain your tools. That includes a sewing machine. And just overall, there was a lot of cost that goes into it. I recently purchased a bunch of materials for some fursuits that I'm working on, which I will have videos for in the future, and the cost to get those suits started up, including my sewing machine, including the tools I needed, because at the time I didn't have them, it cost me over $1,200 for each of the suits, and that's just for raw materials. Now, the other thing to understand is that a lot of the time, these makers are doing this as their primary income. Some are not, but those who are, they definitely want to make enough for it to make sense financially to be doing this. And fursuits can usually make, a lot of fursuits generally take dozens of hours to make, and sometimes a couple hundred hours to make. And so with that in mind, even if we're going off of minimum wage, let's say that a fursuit is taking you 50 hours to make. The federal minimum wage of the United States is $7.25 US. So what that would mean is that if it was 50 hours and we were going off of minimum wage, which in my opinion is far too low for skilled work like making a fursuit, that would be $360. So with the raw materials and accounting for the cost of tools, the bare minimum that I would expect to see a fursuit for, if it was 50 hours of work, which is a really, really fast estimate, would be around $1,600 to $2,000. Now, do I think that that's reasonable? Absolutely not. Simply just because of the fact that that's not sustainable, because these people who are making fursuits are generally not doing this as actual full-time work, because they're not going to be able to create that many suits in a year. There's not going to be that many customers. And so because of the volume of customers and the fact that the work varies so much from suit to suit, they do have to charge a higher rate. And on top of that, it depends on where you are, and there's taxes involved. And with all that in mind and having to cover expenses, because I don't think it should be based on wage, it should be based on what the fursuit makers have to cost. A lot of the time, a lot of people in Canada and the US and some people in Europe are paying over $1,000 in rent just for themselves. And some people are having to pay more than that, not because they're in a fancy place, but because that's just what the rate is. A fursuit commission that you get maybe once or twice a month, depending on the maker, sometimes a bit more than that, is not going to be sustainable for covering that much in rent. Because again, if you're making $400 off of a fursuit instead of 1,000 or 2,000 or even more, you're not going to be able to cover your basic bills, let alone the actual costs of making that fursuit. And so as a result, the cost of basic fursuits has gone up over the years, and I don't think that there is an inherent issue with that in the fandom. The issue is more to do with the economic state of the world. Another thing that I have to bring up in this is fursuit auctions, because some people have gotten really upset at a few makers who auction off their fursuits with no reserve and no cap, no buyout. And some of these auctions have managed to climb into the tens of thousands of dollars. And some people are saying that this is unfair and that, I'm never going to be able to get a suit from this maker. They shouldn't be auctioning them like this. It's greedy. And I just simply don't agree with that notion. To put it simply, fursuits are a luxury. They're not a necessary item, and they are an open market item. There is no one that has a patent on fursuits. As a result of that, there is a lot of competition in the market, and if you really just want a fursuit for a cheap price, there are makers in other markets that charge less money. You can find fursuits ranging anywhere from $1,000 for a mini partial to $20,000 plus for some custom maker slots. What you need to understand is that the price of a fursuit is not indicative of it being a higher status symbol or of it being anything super fancy. It is just simply what that maker is charging based on their work and their demand. If somebody is paying $20,000 for a fursuit, it's because the demand is there for them, and those people either really want that work or know there's no other way for that to happen. If the maker is going to be able to sell a suit for $20,000, I think that most of them are going to do that because for a lot of fursuit makers, that's a life-changing amount of money. Fursuit making is very skilled work. It takes a lot of time to master and get right, and a lot of people are picky about the suit styles that they really want to go for. And when that happens and someone has something that a lot of people see as desirable, there's going to simply be a lot of demand for that maker. If you really want a cheaper suit, you should go and look for other makers that have a similar style. Not, to be clear, don't ask them to emulate the style of the maker that you really want, because that's just bad etiquette. But look for a maker that also fits the box of, oh, I like this maker's work, but they're at a price that is within your budget. And if even that's too much for you, your best bet is going to be trying to learn to make a fursuit yourself. I also want to make it clear that I'm not saying that you're not allowed to complain about fursuit pricing, because trust me, I totally get it. I also wish that fursuits were more affordable, but I also understand that with the way that the world is right now and this sort of economic state of things, it doesn't make sense for a lot of fursuit makers to charge less than what they're charging, simply because in a lot of cases, these makers are charging the absolute bare minimum that they can, or they're charging just above minimum so that they have enough to cover their bills and make ends meet. I have several friends who are fursuit makers, and right now, almost all of them are struggling, and the last thing that these people need while they're struggling and trying to do something that they love for people to enjoy and have, physical embodiments of their characters, the last thing that they need is people coming in and being like, oh, you're gouging me on your pricing. Your pricing is unfair to me specifically. Because the reality is that if you're struggling and you're looking at a fursuit, first off, you shouldn't be doing that. That you should have your priority be on getting yourself into a better financial situation. And second to that, when it comes to fursuit making and fursuiting, the fursuit makers are usually not the reason why their prices are how they are. It's due to the economic state of things and due to them needing to simply just pay their bills. So I think that getting really upset and angry at fursuit makers when they are one of the backbones of this community that put in an immense amount of work and love into their craft for all of you guys, I think that it's just really disrespectful, and I have been disheartened every time I've seen a thread on Twitter about this being like, oh, X fursuit maker is greedy, when the reality is that I think that fursuit makers and really artists at large are free to charge whatever they want, because if you want something cheaper, there probably is someone else offering something cheaper. Complaining to the person that's charging more, and who likely has actually built up the audience to be able to do that in the first place, that's just not really cool. And frankly, it's not really fair to them or to you, because that that time could be spent looking for other makers. Basically, what it boils down to is that fursuit pricing is not done with the intention of screwing anybody over, and it's not meant to be keeping fursuits from the masses. It is simply a supply and demand game like everything else in the world, and on top of that, a lot of these people have worked really hard to be able to charge the prices that they do, even if they're just barely enough for them to get by. If someone is lucky enough to be charging more money and is earning a living off of that, I don't think that they deserve to be flamed for it. It's not their fault that people like their product that they've put a lot of work into making. Either way, I hope that this has been an insightful video for you. If it hasn't been, remember to hit that dislike button and leave forever. Thanks for watching.